As you probably know, regardless what style of photography you do and what you're photographing, light is the most important element. It's often what separates a great looking image from something that looks flat and boring. Now, many of the photographers I know, myself included, rely on natural light a lot of the time, whether it be out of preference or just because lighting equipment can be really expensive. In any case, natural light isn't always available and it's not always conducive to the look that we're going for. Lately, I've been having a lot of fun shooting with RGB lights and an optical snoot that I got for my Cobb light, and I wanted to do a video on shooting portraits with artificial light. However, I remember in my earlier years when I couldn't afford to buy strobes or flashes or continuous lights, I still wanted to create some artistic looks that couldn't be achieved with natural light alone. So I asked myself, what's the most accessible form of artificial light that I'm willing to bet every single person watching this video right now has within arm's reach? Now, before we start, I just want to touch base really quick on this current video setup that I'm using. I'm still new to YouTube and trying to figure out what works the best, and this is a lot different than the setup I've been using in my previous videos. So if you could let me know in the comments if you prefer this talking head or the talking head that I've used in previous videos, I would really appreciate it. So we decided to set up a backdrop in our living room and test it out. All right, so as you can see, we've got the backdrop set up in the living room. I've got a Cobb light with a lantern on it right now just to put some light on my face, because while we're shooting, we're gonna be using our phone flashlights, and that doesn't provide a whole ton of light. So I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to shoot this, considering we're shooting everything by ourselves and it's gonna all be static shots. I'm already starting to second guess whether or not this is a good idea, because this isn't the most flattering light. It's pretty harsh, and also there's not much of it. But I think we're gonna figure out something to do with it. I'm also gonna be using just two simple light stands because I know I'm not gonna be able to hold both phones at the same time, and I'm not always gonna wanna hold a phone, and I don't have any kind of fancy attachment to attach an iPhone to a light stand. So for that, we're gonna have our fancy elastic bands. And then maybe after this, the cats can eat them. Just for the sake of even further explanation, I'm gonna be shooting this with the Canon 5D4 on just the 50mm 1.4 lens. All right, it's time to turn off this light and get started. So far, just using the phone light on its own isn't really working. It's a little too harsh on the skin. It's not very flattering. So next we're gonna try and diffuse the light a little bit using a shirt over top of the phone, and hopefully that works a little bit better. Sweet. So right away, the shirt made this a lot better. The light was much more soft and a lot more flattering on the skin, but it's still kind of boring. I'm not having fun with it, so we're gonna try and just see how creative we can get with these two little phone lights and make something that actually kind of looks good. Next, we're gonna be using glasses of water. We've still got the phones both set up on this light stand, kind of just rubber banded together. This is as Mickey Mouse as it gets, but we're gonna make it work. Okay, looking like up at the camera. So we took the backdrop down just to make a little bit different scenery and shot in front of the bookshelf. We're still using our makeshift light stand slash light setup here. The water actually ended up looking really nice. And the cat cube was kind of cool too, but we weren't really going for a red, colorful look. We're gonna do one more look just cause, and we're going to use this colander. So far, I'm feeling a lot better than I was after we initially did just with the phone light, and it was really harsh and kind of gross looking. So I'm excited to start editing these and see how they all turn out once they're all said and done. So to start, as expected, I was pretty disappointed with the harsh light coming out of the phone on its own. It was very harsh and hard to avoid hot spots and was really unflattering on the skin. After shooting those first few shots, I was actually a little concerned that I might have to come up with a new video concept, but I was determined to make it work. I included a shot with the phone in frame here so you can see where it is, and I placed the other phone on a stand facing the backdrop behind our subject to try and make it a little better. It didn't really work. Still not a fan at this point. Putting the shirt over top of the phones to soften the light worked pretty well, but the photos still felt really boring and uninspired to me, so I knew we had to start getting a little more creative. Using the red fabric of the cat cube worked pretty well, but I've also been doing a lot of colorful work lately, so I just wasn't really feeling this. Once we took down the backdrop, however, and started shooting with the glasses of water is where I felt like we were starting to get some cool stuff. I felt like, okay, these phone lights might actually have some potential. The shots finally began to feel interesting and have a bit of personality to them. So we wanted to do one more creative look with a household item, which is why we grabbed the colander. I was actually really happy with these colander shots. We just had the phone resting against the railing of the stairs with the colander over top of it, and that's how we got this effect. And then for the last two, we flipped the colander over and Angie held onto it while I shined the phone through the bottom, and the light was kind of bouncing around inside it, which gave this cool reflected effect. Overall, this was a really fun challenge for myself. I feel like as photographers, we often get really comfortable with what we shoot and our style, as well as with our gear, and it felt nice to force myself out of that box and to use my creative muscle. You can even use other household items. I shot these ones with Philips Hue lights in lamps and these ones with candles. And as a bonus, I learned how cool light can look using that colander as a light modifier, so I'm definitely going to be using that for some creative stuff in the future. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. I know that this was pretty different from my normal videos. Typically, I'm shooting a lot of B-roll and trying to make it cinematic and very entertaining, but for this video, I just wanted to do something fun and different, and for whatever reason, I was just kind of inspired to do portraits using my phone light. Next week, we'll be back on track with the normal video style, but definitely let me know in the comments if you like this kind of video as well. I know that I shoot most things statically on a tripod because I do this alone most of the time, but the next time I do a video like this, I think I'm going to get somebody to hold the camera and just will video the entire process of the lighting, the shooting, all of that stuff. And I'll be able to talk about it on microphone as I do it. I feel like that system might work a little bit better for this style of video, but I don't know. I'm still figuring all this out. So thanks again for watching. Have a great week. I'll see you all next time. Hard cut. Next, we're gonna be using what? Next, babe. What? Next. Wait, what was I gonna say? Going in the harsh light, but once you get a little bit creative,